Okay, hi everybody. So in this video, I'm going to look at an example of introducing sources properly and clearly and synthesizing sources, and also of transitioning between sources well. Okay, so let's go look at the example. Okay, so this paragraph starts off with a couple sentences that tell us what their point is. They're essentially topic sentences. So they said, when people have explored the economics of eating in a way like this, it has not looked good for those trying to eat healthy on a budget. And if in order to have a healthier country, we need people to start making home-cooked meals with quality ingredients, then it isn't happening soon for the many people who are just worried about putting food on the table. Okay? After that, they bring in Macmillan and they introduce her formally, including her full title and her full name. And that's really what I expect you to do with every source. And they bring in Macmillan to illustrate the number of the large number of people in the country that are going hungry. Okay, so by 2012, the number increased to 48 million people, which is a 57% increase in what it was in the late 1990s. That's from Macmillan. This signal phrase tells us that, they're bringing in further information from Macmillan. It says Macmillan tells us that it is so bad that 1 in 6 Americans reports running out of food at least once a year. Okay. That's all the information from Macmillan, and here they're beginning to transition into bring in Tirado. So if Macmillan brought the factual information into the paragraph, Tirado's going to bring in a specific, personal example in the paragraph. So this is how they transition. So how can we expect these people to only buy quality ingredients? It is obviously hard to be picky with your food when you don't have a lot of choices. And then they say, this is what Linda Tirado tells us in This Is Why Poor People's Bad Decisions Make Perfect Sense. So again, they've done a formal introduction of Tirado. Then they bring in direct quotes from Tirado. They paraphrase her when she's talking about how she could only afford to eat meat and bean burritos when she was pregnant. So Tirado provides a sort of piece of anecdotal evidence that relates to Macmillan, and that's synthesis, where you bring 2, maybe even 3 sources together to prove a larger point in your paper. Okay, and so what I see in that paragraph that I really like is that person is, as they bring in a new source, they're introducing it properly and giving me a sense of, who the author is, what they wrote, etc. And they might even consider adding in that person's credentials, like why are we listening to this person? And then, or they could bring in the publication, like it would maybe lend Macmillan some credibility if we knew that article was published in National Geographic, okay? They're also using those sources together. They're synthesizing them to prove a point. And so on the one hand, Macmillan gives the statistical data, Tirado gives the specific or anecdotal evidence of a person who's really struggling with this issue and their reasons for making the decisions that they are making. Okay? And also, again, I wanted to note they're using signal phrases throughout to attribute ideas to those authors. Okay? Both of those sources didn't have page numbers, so that's why there's no in-text citations in there with page numbers in there. There aren't any page numbers to reference. Okay? So I hope that's helpful for those of you who I noted, weren't introducing sources and weren't attributing information to a source clearly in your papers. This is more what I'm expecting you to do. I also commented on quite a few people's rough drafts saying that they were using one source per paragraph and it was beginning to get sort of list-like. And when I talk about synthesizing sources, that's what I mean. You're using the sources, getting them to work together to prove your points, not just separating all of your sources into sort of a list in your paper. Okay? I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions.